switch that perspective by being one breath away from giving up to one breath away from a breakthrough in your life. By switching that perspective, it could happen in a moment in time to give you hope, just to get through another day and get going in the right direction.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back, Championship Leadership Podcast. We got a special guest with us today, Shea Hillenbrand, currently out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Super excited to be able to share.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get right into it. Championship Leadership is the name of the podcast. Well, what comes to mind for you? What does championship leadership mean to you when you hear that?
Wow, totally different now than when I was on top of the world as a celebrity baseball player, playing in the MLB, becoming an all-star, making 8 figures, private jets, all that stuff. But championship leadership with me right now is perspective. It's internal leadership of who you are. I always ask my people I'm around, like, how do you know what you want if you don't know who you are? So I definitely didn't know who I was when I was on top of the world, living out my first childhood dream. But if I did know who I was, I would probably be able to have sustainable success and find fulfillment through that process. So, leadership right now is it's transformational leadership, leading by example, figuring out who you are and what your attributes are, your gifts and talents to be able to add value to other people.
Well, I know you we were talking before you came on too, and some things that you're doing with veterans, combat veterans, especially coming back and, trying to figure out their identity. And the same thing, it's very common for professional athletes for their career to end. And like, man, who am I? I thought I was, once you don't have a use, I guess you could say, right? Like, they're kind of done with you. It's the business side of things and trying to figure out what the heck you're supposed to do with your life after that. So, you talked about, so you didn't know your identity when you were playing. Is that what you said?
100%.
Why is that? Like, what do you mean?
For myself, and I can only speak for myself, but I've worked and I've talked with a plethora of professional athletes, and it seems to be the same scenario over and over and over. What it comes down to is, if you don't know who you are before you go into what you do, your name becomes the game. It becomes your identity. The pressure to that success of whatever level you're trying to achieve becomes so great that you lose yourself. Mm-hmm. And when I left Major League Baseball and went through some, life really humbled me. It took me to a point where I was one breath away from losing my life. When I left the game, I became obsessed to try to figure out, why did that Shea Hillenbrand that played Major League Baseball not reach his full potential? And what I discovered as I pulled back the layers of the onion for myself and my own experiences, not going to a Tony Robbins conference, not going to masterminds, not going to, reading books and stuff like that. It's just from my experiences myself, is that my perspective was jaded. My perspective of how I viewed the world was fueled by negativity, by anger, by rage, because of stories that I told myself. And that perspective, is the baseline of your belief system. And I didn't believe anything outside of, I'm playing Major League Baseball, because I wanted to play Major League Baseball and reach the highest level to try to get approval and admiration and love from my father, because of experiences that we had throughout my adolescence and my childhood. Mm-hmm. So as I kind of did more research and got deeper with myself of understanding what really is operating me, is that, it comes from experiences in my life. At 14 years old, my dad walks into my room and he drops a bombshell on me. Just imagine yourself at 14. I just finished 9th grade, which is still junior high in Southern California. Yeah. And I'm going to high school, which is my sophomore year, formative years of my life. And, I found my community, friends and sports, my identity. I was fairly good at sports, but I didn't know who I was, didn't know how to communicate, kind of struggled internally and lived inside this internal world of chaos of what I created with how I interpreted and communicated experiences. So my dad walks into my room and he says, "Son, we're moving out of state." I was like, what? I was set to go into high school. I was scared to go into that transition, whatever. But when my dad left the room that day, the story I told myself was, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, and my dad doesn't love me. How can he take me from this? I was left on my own to kind of interpret and communicate that experience to myself. And the feelings I got what received when I went through that experience was negative. It was like heart-wrenching. So that story that I wrapped around, those emotions I wrapped around that story was, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, my dad doesn't love me. And it drove me to the point to where I wanted to become an overachiever through athletics.
Yeah.
That's the only place I could excel in. I wasn't really that good in school, didn't really have, didn't know how to communicate with people, really wasn't standing out in any other way other than athletics. So I became an overachiever through athletics. In high school, I became the #1 soccer player in the state of Arizona.
Really?
I had chances to play in Europe. I had chances to play university, but my childhood dream, I want to play Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
So I walked on at a local community college out here in Arizona, Mesa Community College. And the only reason I made the team was because of my work ethic. First guy there, last guy to leave every single day. I was committed. That pain was driving me. That story was driving me and fueling me to try to achieve the highest level of success I could. So after my sophomore season of junior college baseball, I became the #1 baseball player at the junior college level in Arizona, getting drafted by the Red Sox. I skilled 5 years through the minor league system with the Boston Red Sox because there's different levels in the minor leagues for baseball. Yeah. And I got player of the year 3 of the 5 years and give myself a chance to play Major League Baseball. I'm there. I'm on stage. I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, playing the Orioles, opening day, 2001, as a rookie, my first stop in the major leagues. I have tears coming down my face because I did it. Yeah. 5 years ago, I was playing junior college baseball. Now I'm in the major leagues, 20,000 people all time. 100 years get a chance to play Major League Baseball, but I still had that pain resonating inside me. So 7 years of Major League Baseball. Man, highlight after highlight after highlight. As the first Red Sox player to hit a game-winning home run off of Mariano Rivera, the all-time greatest closer for the Yankees at Fenway Park. I was in 2 All-Star games. I was in a perfect game. I had 3 home runs in consecutive innings in 1 game. I was in 2 other no-hitters. I have $20 million in the bank. I'm flying private jets, 3 mansions, 6 automobiles, 300 pairs of shoes. I'm rubbing shoulders with the who's who, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon's in our clubhouse, J-Lo, like all this stuff. I'm on top of the world. I have anything and everything you could ever imagine of what everybody thinks success is about, but I didn't have that fulfillment. I didn't have that peace. That pain inside myself resonated so deeply. It put me to a position in the prime of my career to be numb to everyone and everybody around me. So I make a decision, proving to be the biggest decision of my life. I walked away. I quit. I just vanished in the prime of my career. And I said, if I convinced myself, I'll just come home to be a father to my children. And if I pursue my second childhood dream of owning a zoo, everything will be great. So I got this great idea of purchasing a 38-acre horse farm in Gilbert, Arizona. I accumulated 300 farm and exotic animals. I had camels, kangaroos, llamas, alpacas, monkeys, raccoons, 2 800-pound Wilshire pigs, Taco Bell in Gilbert. I had a Holstein cow named Biggie Smalls, and I had a mini donkey named Tupac. And we had to separate them at night because they'd have coast-to-coast wars. I'm just joking, but it's just like I had a CNI pony for a blind horse. I had a 3-legged goat named Trace. Like these animals were just amazing, and I used animals to be able to influence and impact the children in our community, disabled, child crisis, and inner city children, through my nonprofit foundation Against All Odds. And man, like the joy I received witnessing my animals transform thousands of children's lives in our community was just priceless. I'm bound to get fulfillment now. Like Major League Baseball didn't do it. The fame didn't do it. The glory, the status, being on TV, everything, all the money didn't do it. This has to do it, right? Because I'm helping out other people and I'm rescuing animals, but it didn't. See, what I was doing is I was running and numbing and fleeing from those pain points in my life because those stories I told myself that are related to those pain points. So 8 years ago, I found myself on the floor of a van parked outside my ex-wife's house. My children were arm's distance away. And here I lie, a person that so many people envy, a Major League Baseball player. And after I overdosed on drugs and alcohol, like the soul's leaving the top of my head and I'm clinging onto my last breath. And I'm like, the thoughts, so many people could relate to this right here. The thoughts were so negative and toxic. There's limiting beliefs. You're a loser. You lost everything. You're pathetic. You said you quit baseball because your kids. You're a hypocrite. You didn't quit, but you got ran out of there because your ego and your pride. And what would your parents think if you left this world today, Shea? What kind of dad would do this to his kids? All these thoughts were just racing through my mind. My answer to that was, I don't know. I'm nothing if I don't have baseball. So I let go. I don't know if I died or if I fell asleep. I was so tired of fighting that game. I couldn't win. That God-sized hole inside myself just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I tried to fill it with everything externally, the success and giving and helping other people out and all the monetary, all the materialistic stuff. Everything in the world couldn't fill that void and that pain that I caused from those stories that I told myself. I'm not lovable. I'm not good enough. My dad doesn't love me. But by the grace of God, the next day, my son peered through the front windshield of my van. 8 years ago, I was sleeping in a van that I lived in. Like, talking about humiliating, as your kids are going to school, telling all their friends that their daddy played for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And I woke up, didn't have any side effects, didn't have any nausea, headache, nothing. And the concoction of alcohol and pills I consumed the night before, I should either have been dead or in a hospital. But what I want to share with everybody is that this is so relevant with so many people, because I wasn't a drug addict and I wasn't an alcoholic. I'm not a drug addict now, and I'm not an alcoholic now. I just couldn't figure out how to get rid of that pain that so many people are going through right now, post-COVID, trying to figure out what to do with jobs and business and family. We're just lost and, wound up in social media and all that stuff. So at that point in time, it was like an aha moment. I said, man, I got to take back control and own my life. Two major decisions that I didn't have to before. I could just hide behind the veil of Major League Baseball player. I could treat everybody like garbage and everybody else would just still love me. I mean, I'd had little girls in the stands holding up signs like, will you marry me, Shea? I would do autograph signings for $10,000 an hour, and girls would come to the table crying and shaking just because they got to meet me. Like I was in a boy band. Like, how do you process that, man? When internally you think you're the biggest piece of garbage in the world, and you have this pain inside yourself just sitting there in that compartment ready to blow the lid. So I got into momentum. I said, I got to get into momentum, because I know when you get into momentum, stacking little wins on top of each other. That's how I got to the top playing Major League Baseball. I just doing one thing at a time. And then I just, when you get in momentum, like you'll get rewarded. Like life will reward you. And then I had to be on guard of the language I'd say to myself. Like the most important conversation we'll ever have is that conversation with ourselves. What are we saying to ourselves? Those conversations I had with myself were really negative. Were really self-defeating, and it put so many self-limited beliefs on me as Shea Hillenbrand, the person, not Shea Hillenbrand, the Major League Baseball player. I can hit a Major League fastball in my sleep, but who am I? Like, who am I? Like, that chapter closed when I was 32 years old. I had the rest of my life. What am I doing? And then I had to install a new belief system outside of what I did playing Major League Baseball, because the most powerful force in human nature is for us to stay congruent to what we believe to be true about ourselves. So I had to look in the mirror and say, shit, what do you believe about yourself? Well, you're scum, you're an idiot, you're all these things. And I had to recreate a new belief system, a new self-confidence and all those things, because self-doubt has creeped in so big. You wouldn't think, as a professional athlete who made, $20 million would have to deal with that, but we do, because we're so singular minded with the profession. And when that profession is like just ripped from you and you can't do it anymore, it is the scariest thing in the world. So that was the foundation of what I do now. I teach, and I share the MLB mindset, because everybody thinks of Major League Baseball, but MLB mindset with what I do is momentum, language, and beliefs. And those three irrefutable laws, those three truths, are the foundation of my life today and the lives of hundreds of people that I coach and speak to around the world. Is try to get the baseline of that. Like, you got to get into momentum. You have to understand the language you're talking to yourself, and you have to start believing in yourself. So many people have limited beliefs, as you see, because you're in the space doing an amazing job. That's what's blocking everybody from what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, how did you work through all of that? Like, were there some people that came along to help you through that process, or like what
the good Lord brought?
When did you feel like it clicked for you?
Yeah, the good Lord brought strategic people into my life, and that was the main one is my wife, Kristen, today, and we've been married 7 years, and it took a strong woman. And you have amazing answers, you have amazing experience, but I wouldn't listen to you because I couldn't trust you.
Yeah.
And the reason why I couldn't trust you is because I didn't trust myself.
Sure.
And that's what it came down to. But I knew if God put a woman into my life, there'd be some way, somehow I would let her in. I would be vulnerable enough with that person. And, we uncovered a lot of stuff. But the biggest thing is I discovered my smile and fulfillment and peace and happiness and purpose and drive and all ambition, all the stuff I was trying to seek on top of the world, being a celebrity athlete. I have it now. I found it. And when I found it, I was like, man, I can't keep this to myself. I have to share it with other people. This is the last thing I thought I'd ever be doing in my life. So, and other strategic people came into my life. I'm telling you, man, like if we just get into momentum and keep doing the things every single day, we will get rewarded some way or another. Things will open up, opportunities will arise, people will come into our life. But for myself, like I have to prepare every single day for the next step, for the next level, because when that opportunity comes, I want to be prepared to achieve that. And those are kind of things that I learned and kind of mastered playing Major League Baseball and being successful at that.
Well, I know you just mentioned God a couple of times. Was he always did you always have a relationship with God, or was that something that helped you through the process?
Thank you for asking. So what happens is I've always been a believer. I gave my life to Christ when I was in AA. When I was 22 or 23 with my buddy. But the thing is like, if you don't know how, like I didn't know how to have a relationship.
Yeah.
I really didn't have a relationship with my father here. How can I have a relationship with God when I can't see him, you know, and the pressure at that level is like, I really can't invest too much time into this because I have to focus on performing. I have to focus on mastering the craft because I have to get to the big leagues, because if I get to the big leagues, that will be the end all cure all of everything I'm trying to seek. But I had it all twisted and backwards. So I believe that God woke me up that day in the van, and I believe God put Kristen into my life. And I believe that happens to a lot of people. But what I've discovered through that process is like, the good book says, do not conform yourself to the world, but transform yourself by the renewal of your mind. Like my mind was so toxic that I had to transform that. I'm in control of that. God can't do that. I can't pray it away. All I could do is meditate and meditate on the word and start putting good things in and start taking back control of my mindset. Cause I know perspective and mindset is the one thing that everybody needs to work on to be able to get them from where they are right now to achieve whatever they're trying to achieve, or their heart desires, or the visions or dreams that they have. So integral part. I try to do everything I could to ruin my life and my I've already proved that I got to die to my flesh every single day. I got to pray to God. I trust you. Will guide me, lead me. What vision do you want me to do? Put the people in front of me you want me to speak into, and that's where it's at. And I'm on fire. I love it. I love life now at 47 years old. I feel better than when I was in the prime of my Major League Baseball career. So,
awesome. What about the relationship with your father? I know you mentioned that, and that seemed to be a little bit of a root to a lot of the pain that you had. And was that something that you were able to get right or get through, or how did you work through that, or where's the relationship with your dad now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking. That's a great question, because this is where a lot of hiccup is for a lot of men out there. And those stories and those experiences and those are like putting perspectives that don't really have anything to do with our fathers, but what we perceive our relationship with our fathers. We had kind of a generational curse. What my dad went through with his mom, pulling her out of bars when he was 13 years old because his dad wouldn't do it. And his dad, he was never good enough for his dad. His dad was really hard on him. So we were really fighting a generational curse. And that's the number one thing that Kristen, my wife, said. She's like, you have to reconnect with your father. I'm like, no, no, you're going to reconnect with your father. See, I cut my parents out of my whole career. I have to live with that. And that's a horrible thing to live with. But I discovered my story, and what I discovered through the process. See, we can rewrite history. Like we can, like you can't physically change the experience that happened in our past, whether it's traumatic experience or a defining moment in our life. But what we could do is we can go back and we could change our perspective to that experience. But so many of us men, and mostly men, don't want to do that because, like I said, the emotions wrapped around that perspective to that experience is very uncomfortable, and we don't want to go back there and deal with that. So I said, I have to deal with this stuff. So I went back and like reverse engineer it. You know what really happened? You know what the truth is? Why we moved from California to Arizona? It was for them, my parents, to give me a chance and an opportunity to play Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
That's why we moved.
That's crazy.
And I was like, why didn't you just tell me that, guys? But my dad, they didn't really communicate, emotionally unavailable. And that's just the generation where he grew up in, you know what I mean? Like, you just gotta go work. He worked 3 jobs, 7 days a week for like 8 years straight to try to provide a better life than what his parents provided him. And all these things, I was like, why didn't you tell me this, Mom? Why didn't you tell me this, Mom? So I sat down with my father at the supper table about 5 years ago. And I said, Dad, I'm going to share my story. So I shared my story. He was crying. I was crying. Mom's crying. And he's like, son, we've been trying to tell you this your whole life. And I said, I know, but I was stuck in my own way because the pain that was wrapped around the story I was telling myself was so great that I didn't know how to process through that. I said, you're my idol, Dad. Like, it's amazing, like, to see your characteristics and what you've done to make yourself who you are. Now that I've able to choose a different perspective. And I said, Dad, I love you. And I reached over to go give him a hug. And he's like, oh, don't touch me. It was really sad to see somebody at 72 years old, man, like with those feelings, I couldn't feel with that. So fast forward 4 months after that, we're at my house. My wife's in my house, and my dad's like, son, I need to talk to you. And whenever my dad said that, our whole life, man, my stomach was just went into my throat. And at 40 years old, I'm like, the same experience. I'm sitting at my dinner table in my house with my dad. He's like, son, I just want to let you know, like, how proud I am of you. And that's all I ever wanted my whole life. And I said, Dad, wait, let me get that. Let me video this. Say that again. He's like, no, I'm never going to say that again. Like, that's whatever. But it's just like, it's crazy to think of the words and the power of the words that we have towards other people that look up to us, right? As a father influence or a mother influence or whatever. So then you fast forward like 2 or 3 years later. And then my father passed away in the middle of the night. My mom gave me a call and she says, come over here, son. And my dad actually donated his body to science. So my mom and Kristen, my wife, and my father is dead on the floor of the living room at their house. And we're sitting there for like 3 hours. And just to see my mom's unconditional love for him, married 53 years, having to go through what she went through with him was just the most beautiful sign of love, expression of love I've ever seen. And my mom said, all right, say goodbye to your dad now, Shea. So I pulled the sheet back and I kissed my dad in the forehead. And I said, Dad, I'm going to go use my voice to help change the world for you. So that's kind of one of the driving factors of what I'm doing right now is just man, like, we got to change that perspective. We got to audit our perspective. We got to see how we view the world and how we operate. What's our truth where we operate from? And as we know, so many people are operating at such a low level, 40 to 60% of what they're capable and what they've been put here to do. So many people's dreams and visions have gone dormant because life's kicked them in the tail and they think life's passed them by. And it's so not true. And the perspective that they formed from that pain point of that experience in their life has locked and blocked the access to the power inside them. So what they do is like, if I just go get this success or go do this or go watch Netflix or go eat or whatever, they form all these addictions to run, numb, and flee from that pain. And I'm just trying to bring light with my story and my vulnerability at such a high level experience, like what you're going through, I've been through. And whoever, doesn't matter where you are, whether you're on the streets or walking into the Ritz-Carlton, we all fight the same battles. This is how we navigate it and the perspective we form from it. Yeah.
Well, so what is that vision for you, and what's the big impact you're looking to make now that you're on the path you are?
Yeah. So I have NtB mindset. So what I've clearly, the lane I've clearly defined is I speak, I teach, I coach, and I create video content. And from there, I love speaking. I love being on stage. I was on stage 2 weekends ago. Last weekend, I'm going to New Jersey this weekend. And just speaking life, man. Just being truthful and just being real, and the passion and the energy is moving people, and just sharing my story to bring light. So long story short, long and the short of it, like what God told me to do is like, I want you to go out to revitalize souls and plant seeds, revitalize souls and plant seeds. So many people are struggling right now, so it's just like, okay, how do we bust through that ego? How do we bust through all that noise? It's just changing the state and people feeling what you're saying and going in there and say, you know what, providing hope and inspiration and some tips and tricks and techniques to get people out of where they are right now. So I'm just focusing on going around everywhere I go, just revitalize souls and plant seeds.
Powerful. I love that. What's and maybe you've already talked about it, but maybe you can a little bit more, but I think a lot of to what you've been talking about, there's we all have some critical moments in our life, and it's just decisions that we make in those times that really kind of, determine where we end up. Right. So obviously you made the decision you did in the moment for you, but I think there's a lot of people, you've been talking about it, which has been tough, challenging times, especially over the last few years, a lot of uncertainty going on, and people are in some of these difficult moments right now, and they're trying to just, man, if they only knew which way to choose before, if like they could only know the result before they made the decision. Right. But unfortunately, that's not how life works. But you can draw power from people that have been in those situations and hear how they chose themselves in those moments. So is there a time in your life comes to mind you could share with the listener?
Yeah, I mean, I just try to provide a safe space, being vulnerable for other people could be vulnerable. I wish I had myself now when I played Major League Baseball. I would have wrote myself $1 million check and said, dude, come with me because you got the answers. I would have made 50, 60, 70. I mean, that's just like business wise, but that's,
right.
I mean, that's, I don't want to think about that, but I would have been able to tap into more potential with where they are. I mean, we're all in this together, right? So it's just like, okay, how do we come out there and provide that voice and a safe space to say, you know what, it's all right. It's all right as a man to say, you know what, I'm scared, I'm hurt, I'm struggling. I have these limited beliefs, but I have to provide and protect my family. I got to show up and serve my family. I got to be the lead servant and all. It's just like, we can't give what we don't have. And so many of us men are empty, and so many of us men are struggling. We're in quiet desperation, just trying to reach something. And when we don't know where to go because we don't know how to articulate it or ask her or just share, like, I am stuck. So what we do is we run, numb, and flee from that. We go to pornography, we go to gambling, we go to drinking, we go to drugs, we go to promiscuousness, all these toxic, negative things. And I did all that stuff. And I can speak into that because only from my experience and being able to replace those habits and be able to replace those habitual routines with something that's more empowering and productive. Like my stress, like personally, like my stress reliever for a period of time was drinking wine with my wife. And we see sunsets every day. I'm blessed to be able to be in a very nice, I'm blessed with my situation I'm in right now. And my wife can drink a glass of wine and just chill. Shea can't just drink a glass of wine and chill. So the glass of wine turns into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And all of a sudden I find myself escaping my stress because we all have stress. We all have pressure in our lives. And I didn't realize that. And I was going down an area, and this is recently, I was going down an area that wasn't productive. It was kind of dividing some things. And I was like, oh my gosh, dude, I need to take a step back and audit this. Like, okay, I can't just say, hey, dude, just stop drinking. Because like it doesn't work. Well, why am I drinking? Oh, that's my stress reliever. Okay, at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock every single day, I have this urge to want to go just get a glass of wine and just hang out and relax. I've had a good day of work and all that stuff, but what can I replace that with? Oh, five houses down is the clubhouse, and there's a weight room. So every day at 5 o'clock, I'm down to the weight room, and that's my stress reliever. That's what I replace that with a positive thing to build up and edify who I am and keep me going in the right direction rather than limiting me. So it's like, okay, what's our stress relievers? Is it video games? Is it social media? Is it eating? Is it something that's like you just want to escape? What can we do to continue to go? Because there's people out there right now that need to hear our voice, man. There's people out there right now wanting to put a pistol in their mouth because they're one breath away from giving up. And maybe not even to that extreme, because I get emails and texts and DMs all the time. Like, oh, I watched your video and I was going to commit suicide, but I didn't. I'm like, this is crazy. You don't even understand the power of your message and the story that you have. So it's just like some people are just one breath away from giving up on their dreams and their vision and their job and their marriage and their kid, whatever it might be. And I'm just passionately like on a mission just to help people. Like, dude, no, switch that perspective, like being one breath away from giving up to one breath away from a breakthrough in your life by switching that perspective. It could happen in a moment in time to give you hope just to get through another day and get going in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we start to wrap this up, like what, if there's one thing that the listener can implement today would help move their life forward today, what would you say to them?
Get moving. The quickest way to the mind is to the body. If you have to walk, if you have to exercise, you have to do something, whatever. Like one of my really good friends, he's an actor in Hollywood now. So we're like, the cheapest therapy is exercise, and the cheapest therapy, like mental therapy, is working out. You know what I mean? So if we can understand that, like I go trail running I have a trails outside our house, and I'm always moving. And when I got stagnant, like seriously, I was fat, bald, and homeless. When I met my wife 8 years ago. She likes to tell everybody, yeah, she was fat, bald, and homeless. It used to affect me because I used to have a billion. No. But now it's like, oh yeah, you're right. So it's like, I lived that as a professional athlete that took it very serious. I was a physical specimen, a machine when I played baseball. But when I left, like we got to keep moving. So once you keep moving, it's going to change you, give you the endorphins, give you the dopamine releases. It's going to change your state of being. And when you're in that new state of being, so I'm going to exercise, I'm going to move. And when I'm in that state of being, what I want to do is audit my perspective. How am I viewing the world? how I say there's three pillars. There's your personal pillar, which is you, right? The internal you, like the internal world of spirit, mind, and body, and how that operates. And then there's your private pillar. I say private pillar because when you're a celebrity athlete, like your interpersonal relationships, your wife, your spouse, and your children, and that's your private life. Like you can mess with me all you want. Don't mess with my family, right? Don't put them on blast. You can put me on blast all you want all over TV because I know that but your private life and then your professional life. But I'm telling you, if you take care of your personal life, which is you, and excel in your private life, which is your interpersonal relationships, you can't not, your success in your profession will just, it'll explode. It'll explode. So many of us put all of our eggs in a basket of our profession. And I got to do this. I got to reach this level. I got to reach six figures. I got to, whatever that might be. I got to reach the next level in my company or whatever. Like that's just the opposite of what we need to be thinking. Get moving. Audit your perspective in those three pillars, your personal, private, and your professional pillar, and start taking action.
Yeah.
We can't know what to do until we understand and own where we're at. So many people see it, and so many people might own where they are, but the thing is, they got to take action. For most people, stop the bleeding. Stop doing the rituals and habits on a daily basis that's bleeding you out, bleeding your cup out. We got to fill our cup up, right? To give to our family and give to other people. I can't give what I don't have. So we need to start on level one and just stop the bleeding and just take one step at a time. And those steps will just keep going and keep going. And all of a sudden, you never know. You might be a two-time all-star in whatever you do or whatever you try to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. I love it. Yeah. Keep moving. I 100%. I'm right with you with everything that you said today. It's like true core message for me as well. So, what is the main spot we can go to find out more about what you're up to and your mission and, you know, your videos, your training, your speaking?
Yeah, I'm at SheaHillenbrand.co. So SheaHillenbrand.co. Apparently, a baseball fan owns SheaHillenbrand.com, and that's going to pay them a lot of money. So I'm not going to pay somebody for that name to me. So SheaHillenbrand.co. And then I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can just Shea Hillenbrand.
Yeah, we'll get you all linked up for that. And no worries. And I do appreciate you being here. For the listener, you know, you want more incredible content, just like with Shea Hillenbrand here today on Championship Leadership Podcast. Just stay where you're at. Don't go anywhere and tune into the next episode. Shea, thank you so much. It's been incredible.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.